records. What's up, Internet? This is John from the Internet and YouTube, brought to you by Amazing YouTube. Hopefully you guys are having an amazing hump day. Do you guys remember the first time that you ever heard the word hump day? I do. I was at one of my first jobs out of college. I was in this NOC, this NOC, this Networks Operations Control company in downtown Atlanta. It was the worst job of my life, and the people there made my life a living hell. It was an absolute tragedy. Partly because, actually mostly because I took some really, really terrible advice. I'm getting some tea. After my coffee, more morning coffee, sometimes I will have some spiced apple tea, decaffeinated. It's fantastic. Tastes so yummy. Anyway, got this really, really bad piece of advice. And that's really the point of this vlog is how powerful advice can be, both positively and negatively. And I received one of the worst pieces of advice of my entire life right before I graduated college. I've told this story, I think, a handful of times. But anyway, so I went to a career counseling seminar, whatever. Not seminar. So I was told that I needed to get some career counseling in college. And so I went to this career counselor and we sat down and, within 15 minutes, she had fully diagnosed my entire life and understood, everything about me, which is obviously impossible. And she started prescribing advice, prescribing thoughts and actions that she thought that I should take. And you've been in situations like this before where, you encounter someone new, perhaps, and suddenly they act like they know you and they're prescribing things, and it's such a dick move, right? It's such a ridiculous thing to do, but we do it. People do it. Maybe even you do it. And if you do it, you need to stop that because that's annoying. Don't be that person that, Anyway, so she gave me some terrible advice. And this advice was, after I gave her my background history as a software programmer for years, even before coming to university, she said, it sounds like you have had a lot of great experiences in software. You should be more well-rounded. And at the time, that actually sounded like really good advice. And I thought, I've spent a lot of time in software development and engineering already. Maybe I need to learn more about hardware and go really hardcore into hardware and specifically like networking and like routing and that kind of level of technology. And so against all like obvious wisdom, I decided to apply to jobs outside of, like, as I was leaving college. I decided only to apply to hardcore hardware and networking related technology jobs. Nothing to do with writing software. And strangely, I was able to convince not one, but two companies that this was going to be a big part of my future. And honestly, like, I think that is a massive failure on the hiring manager and the organization and the folks that I interviewed with. They should have determined very quickly that this was not going to be a good fit and that I had really very little experience outside of, my hobbyist hardware experiences and building computers at home and stuff like that. And the classes that I took at Georgia Tech. And this was just going to be bad. And then I was new. I took this advice. I really thought it was true. And I went with it. I went with it hard. Long story short, this advice was terrible and I got fired. I don't think I even made it 3 months in my first job. thank God, because it was the most toxic work environment imaginable. I hated it. So one of the worst companies to work for, at least maybe that particular business unit and team. And if you, for whatever reason, if those folks are watching, yes, you guys were terrible, and I'm still upset about it. Just kidding. I'm fine. I'm over it. But then, so I took that advice and I got fired. And thank goodness, because to be honest, I was so nervous to quit. I knew it was a bad place. I knew it was unhealthy. I knew it was unhealthy for me physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like everything above. Like my peers, my colleagues. So let me paint this a picture. So this network operations control center, we're in charge of managing the uptime for essentially the connections, the fiber optic connections that major organizations like Microsoft use to have access to the internet and the larger kind of internet networking, system around the world. And we were on top of a major backbone, kind of the Eastern Seaboard fiber optic network, and so we controlled a lot of that throughput. And so it was our job to make sure that stayed up 100% of the time. Now, of course, it never stays 100% of the time, but we were in charge of making sure that those things stayed online. So we 24/7 coverage, which meant that you had night shifts. And so what my colleagues would do during the evening and late into the night and then early morning is they would play video games, which is fine, and then also stream porn, like all the time. And they would talk about each other's wives, like in super derogatory ways. And I just, like, it didn't take me but a week to figure that out. And I was like, I can't work here. This is the worst. And these are some of the worst people ever. Not that I was necessarily better, but man, I just don't want to talk about other people's wives like that. And I was newly married, and I was just still trying to figure out, like, how to be a married person. And these older folks were just ripping on each other, and just, they're all married, but they're watching porn at night. It's just so weird. Anyway, but I was too scared to quit. So thankfully, I just wasn't a culture fit, and they eventually fired me. But then I went ahead and applied to other networking hardware jobs, and went to the second worst place I've ever worked, which was this healthcare company that installed on-premise kind of servers and networking for kind of like a closed circuit server setup for kind of their medical data. Anyway, I'm totally butchering that. And that was even worse. I mean, maybe not worse, but it was just as bad, but in an entirely different way, but still relationship bound. Anyway, all that to say, okay, I think my tea has steeped enough. All that to say, advice can be incredibly life-giving if right, and then can be incredibly damaging if you get it wrong. And I was just meditating on that this morning because I'm in a place where I'm receiving a lot of advice around a particular topic and subject matter, which is financing for my company and making sure that we have enough money in the bank to continue to operate and continue to move things forward and build the great product that we're building, which is awesome, by the way. I'm really excited about the thing that we're building. But it just reminded me, because I'm in the season where I'm receiving a lot of different perspectives and pieces of advice and counsel, that to take a lot of that with a grain of salt. And that so much of the quality of good counsel is predicated on the strength of the relationship. In other words, the better that person knows you, the higher the likelihood that the counsel, the advice, the opinions, perspectives, the worldviews that they share with you will actually resonate and be relevant to you. And now it's very obvious, right? Because the folks who know you the best should be able to provide the best type of counsel and advice. But here's the caveat: people who know you really well and have a relationship with you sometimes struggle to tell you the hard truth, right? They sometimes struggle, maybe all the time, they struggle with sharing truth in love, is what we sometimes call it, is just being able to spit the truth to you and knowing that it may hurt your feelings, but trusting that the relationship equity will protect the relationship and allow that relationship to continue to thrive and grow despite the hard medicine. And so it's a little bit of a catch-22, because sometimes a complete stranger doesn't have that baggage, right, or that drag, and they're a little bit more open and free to speak plainly than maybe a friend. So it's a give or take. But the point of this vlog is that the strength of your relationships is deeply important, and that as you walk through this year, just make sure that you're getting the counsel and advice from the sources that really matter, the people that know you the best. And then your job is to challenge them to challenge you. That's something I do with some of my friends all the time, is as we sit down and chat, and as we try to sharpen each other. Iron sharpens iron is what it says in the Bible, that we're really, really trying to sharpen each other, not for the sake of hurting each other, not for the sake of damaging each other's ego. Well, maybe just that, but we're not dispensing counsel and advice to hurt each other. We're doing it so that they might become better people, and that, of course, is always the goal. Hey, Arden, turn that down a little bit. Why did you turn it up? Arden, turn it down, please. Anyway, we're hanging out here. It's Wednesday. Hopefully all that makes sense. Daniel Tiger is up on the screen again. We're in that little bit of the phase in the morning where we're transitioning from early morning breakfast stuff to an early morning nap, or a morning nap. He'll take one nap and then he'll get through the rest of the day. But hopefully you're having a great hump day. I think that's the topic that we started. And anyway, the first time I heard hump day was at that first organization in which all that insanity happened. Oh. Hey, you. Hey. Good morning. What are you doing? Boop. That's pretty funny. Boop. Boop. That's my buddy. So one day I'm going to have to give this little man all of the advice in my head, and hopefully we'll do an okay job. The responsibilities of a parent to make sure not only that they don't die every single day, but that you train them up, build them up to into an incredible person of character, of deep moral fiber and character. If that is not a heavy, heavy weight and burden and responsibility, then I don't know what is. Anyway, hope you guys are having a great, great hump day. As I said, I will see you guys online. Love you guys. And love to hear your thoughts. Hump day. Also, thoughts on hump day. And then also, if you want, what is the worst job that you ever had and why? What was it and why? And if going back, would you have changed anything around your decisions? I'd love to know. And maybe the community would love to know too. So I'll leave you with that. I'm going to have my tea. I don't think I left it steep enough.